Everybody ready?
Especially about the use it.
Call the meeting to order. Ask if you'll join us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you, and welcome for joining us for what is a continued meeting from our regular July 7th board meeting. Just a few announcements we usually make before we get started. Not required to wear a mask these days unless you're not vaccinated, and then you may want to wear one just when you're moving around the meeting room. Agenda was posted on the website, on the door, social media, and it had the instructions for people to join us virtually or in person as they might choose. The meeting is recorded. It will be available on the township's website. Written minutes will be available on the website after board approval. There will be a couple opportunities for public comment, should there be some public. One in the beginning and one at the end of the meeting. And Todd monitors for a virtual meeting, but I don't think we have any virtual attendees at this time. So a reminder to everyone that if you speak strongly and direct into the microphone, either at the board or when you address the board, it helps when we have to record minutes a little bit later on. Wendy's not going to join us, right?
No,
I didn't think so.
or enjoy your evening.
So with that, we might just do a self introduction of the supervisors.
Dave Rose.
Jeff Rogers.
Art Rutledge.
Bob Brown.
And to my left, I think everybody pretty much knows Todd Ziegler, Township Manager. Sitting behind him in the bright, beside him in the bright yellow shirt is Mike, is our maintenance foreman, supervisor extraordinaire. And a lot of information about the needs of the maintenance building. We have excused our solicitor and our recording secretary from this meeting. And just so everybody knows you, can we do a self-introduction of our speakers or advisors?
I'm Kevin Stick with Murphy and Dick Paper Architects.
Steve?
Hi, Steve Hoppus with Stock Meter.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, well, we have only a single agenda item this evening, and that is our proposed municipal complex. We'll get into details and talk about finances and about construction contracts and make some decisions before the night's over on just where we're going to go and how we're going to proceed. In the interest of time, maybe for Steve, because I know we're going to take most of your time while you're here, but the only reason that we would not get into the financial options would be if the board would decide to do absolutely nothing. And I thought maybe I'd just do a quick informal poll. If we feel we're going to move forward with something, then I'd say that we can do the financial things first and not have Steve have to listen to a lot of things that he probably doesn't need to. But is there anybody that feels we wouldn't move forward with something? All right, then in the interest of time, I think we can get over the fastest, the quickest. I thought before we got into that, maybe just a little background so we're all talking about coming from the same area, and Todd and Mike can certainly feel free to add to this, but I guess we've been talking about the potential first municipal maintenance building and then the entire process for more than a year, I would think, Todd.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe closer to 2.
Going on 2.
So we originally were, I guess, motivated to move forward to look at something by the condition of the existing maintenance building. And that's at Hametown Park, and this just demanded some attention. It has, just so everybody knows, a leaking roof, malfunctioning heating systems, poor condition of the floor, the walls, the siding, outdated restrooms, lack of really any kind of overnight accommodations. And today we have more and larger equipment than we did 40 years ago when that building was built. So things don't fit and aren't available to work on like they should be. I think most people know that Mike and his crew do all of the maintenance on our equipment. Some of the might be replacing a dump truck body or a motor, whatever it is. Our guys do it all, and they also perform the state inspections. I think we have 2 people that are licensed or qualified to do that. They do that without a lift, without a wash bay, without a lot of other needed accessories. So they are saving the township a lot of money every single day by what they can do in a building that doesn't help them very much in accomplishing that. So we considered 3 options. We brought in a company to do a study looking at what they might suggest. And we looked at repairs to the existing building, repairs and enlarging the existing building, and demolishing the existing building and building a larger, more accommodating structure in roughly the same location, but would take a new salt shed to do that. By far, the option, first, it was recommended by the consulting firm, and second, that just seemed to make most sense was to us, for the long term, was to just get rid of what we have and start new and get something that'll last the township for hopefully beyond my time sitting on the board for sure. As we did that, we decided, well, you know what? We're sitting in a big building here that we don't even use half of. Should we also look at putting these 2 buildings together? And that would do a couple things if we had that complex. Certainly would enhance communication and the management oversight that Todd has to give both the admin and maintenance operations. Again, we're only using less than half of this building. I think the building was a great investment back 15 years ago, and it served the township well for over 15 years. But it has maintenance issues with multiple HVAC systems, excessive utility costs just due to our large unused spaces. It's not very good in the security features for the employees. I think that needs improvement. We really need improvement in the access, the waiting area, the public area, restrooms for the public. None of that's really adequate. And we believe this building should have significant resale value to help offset the cost of a new facility. So to date, we have certainly encountered significant expense to the design, documentation, and drawing packages to develop a total complex with the option to delete the admin building if that appears too expensive. Township crew has already removed the softball, baseball playing fields, backstop, fencing, bleachers, asphalt, concrete. Done a pretty significant effort on cleaning out the existing building and putting some things into storage. Construction bids received are being evaluated, as have financing bids. And bids are based on the township doing as much of the work as we feel we can accomplish, and that's Mike and his crew, again, to try to attempt to keep costs at a minimum. That includes paving, planting, landscaping, and what other little things we may have looked at. That all said, we're all still in a little state of shock as we got the prices and started to review them. They're higher than what we expected. They're higher than what you had predicted for many reasons in the beginning. And we've been trying to figure out, well, where do we go from here? And I think we should keep in mind that if we do not proceed with a new admin building, we do need to spend some money to bring this one up to the level that it should be for the township. For example, Todd said we frequently have people who drive by and say this is a township building, so it must have restrooms. We got to go. So let's pull in here and use them. Well, we can only do that by walking them halfway through the facility. And we have really no adequate waiting area for the public, where some meetings, like staff meetings, the public is not allowed in until their topic is being discussed. So they wait out in their car right now. So did I miss anything that's pertinent as we begin discussions?
I think you covered it very well.
We all kind of come from the same place. Well, with that, I guess it would put us to look at the financial side of things. And I don't know if you want to kind of walk us through that, Todd. And again, we have Steve Halvis, who was our bond counsel. So I guess, Steve, I mean, you sort of took care of all the legal.
That is correct, yeah, it's my fundamental obligation at the end of the day to issue an opinion that's required by the bank that reflects the fact that the transaction is a tax exempt transaction under the Internal Revenue Code. They rely upon my opinion to support them providing you with funding that is tax exempt, and I put all of the documentation together for your DCED application for the approval of the incurrence of debt, as well as then for the entire transaction.
So you've done the approval that they need to do to the amount that we're borrowing and how
Not
it
yet.
relates to our basic.
So what we've advertised today, given the fact that you originally were thinking about $3.5 million, and then increased that to potentially $5 million. So we have two bank proposals that's been provided at this point now, one for $3.5 million, one for $5 million. And both of those alternatives have been advertised because the Local Government Unit Debt Act requires before you authorize by ordinance the incurrence of debt and the approval of the bank proposal, you need to put public notice that you're going to consider that. So we've advertised the fact that you may be considering an ordinance approving either $3.5 million or $5 million. So tonight we have those ordinances. If you're going to take action, you would make a motion to approve that ordinance. Local Government Unit Debt Act then requires us to then do a post-approval advertisement, notifying the public that you've approved the ordinance. And then we'll do an application to DCED, basically saying, here's a copy of the ordinance, here's a copy of the bank proposal, here's a copy of the debt service schedule, and we're asking that you approve it under the requirements of the Local Government Unit Debt Act, which basically what they're doing at that point in time is ensuring that those school district municipality or authority is borrowing more than they're legally able to.
Right.
And that's based on how much revenue you generate on an annual basis times a certain factor.
And you've done that, so we meet those requirements.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have all the documentation today for the DCED application. So if you approve it, we'll sign the ordinance, we'll sign all the application documents, and then I'll make an application to DCED in about 20 days. They'll approve it, and then move to the closing in order to close on financing if that's the direction you want to take.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's a good concise summary, and I appreciate
More than happy to answer any questions.
answered questions I had. Do you want to kind of lead us into it?
Well, I guess it kind of, well, let me bring up this first, I guess. I did email to you, share this here on the screen. As you recall, we used John Fry, who's a financial consultant, who put together the request for proposal for financing for the building. I think, if I remember right, the list, Art, you saw the list, I think probably had 18, 20
I think it was
banks,
almost
maybe
25.
been more than that. That they sent the proposals out to, that they've done business with in the past and so forth. We were seeking a fixed term for the entire duration of the loan, which, and Steve can attest to this, typically you're lucky if you get 10 years.
They'll do 5, 7, and sometimes 10
Right.
years and lock it in. But, you know, the problem that banks have is they don't know what the long-term rates are gonna be, so they're taking a lot of risk in lending you money for that long of a period of time, not knowing where rates are gonna go. So when I saw a 25-year lock at 2.62, that is a very good proposal. You got a great proposal with them locking in. John and I just talked about this today as well.
No, I agree.
And he was like, wow, I was blown away that they would lock it in for the 25 years.
Yeah. So he kind of summed everything up, you know, and I know the board has been thinking about that and so forth. Is first of all, I think it's a good rate, but more importantly, it's fixed for 25 years. because as Steve said, I know my experience has always been, I've even seen them as low as 3 years, but typically 5 to 7, max. I don't know if I've ever dealt with any that have been up to 10 years, but 25 years at that rate. Now, what I had John do, just for discussion purposes, I asked John if he would take the 3.5 and then the 5 million. Where you see current rate is currently what's been in the proposal. And just to show you what if it goes up 0.5% or a full percent. And I mainly did that just so if we think, well, let's wait a year or two, you know, for any of us to guess what the interest rate's going to be in a year or two, we don't know. But it's down pretty low. About the only way it's probably going to go is up. Yeah.
You're pretty historic low.
Yeah. So that's what these option 2 and option 3 is. And it's not really an option, but it's if we.
And what I kind of focused on was what's critical to us is the annual debt service and what kind of money we would have to come up with every year.
Yeah,
What
so
seems to me to make sense, because there's no prepayment penalty
there's no
on
prepayment
this.
penalty.
And to me, whether it's the maintenance building and some work here, or whether it's the whole complex, it seems like we should avail ourselves of the 5 million. Because it's, I think, a great rate and fixed for that long period of time. And if there's a little bit we don't use, because we don't do all the admin, and we can always pay that off. And it doesn't seem to be tied. You just had it for capital projects, basically.
Yeah, I think that's what the proposal, I think, said for capital projects, correct, Steve?
Yeah, so the one thing that we tried to do, given the fact that there was a little uncertainty, we did include in the ordinance a very broad description of your capital projects, which, you know, it's the planning, design, construction of additions, improvements, renovations, and extraordinary repairs to the acquisition of real estate rights and interest for, and the acquisition and installation of related equipment, machinery, and furnishings for various buildings and facilities of the township.
So that would cover.
Then we said including, but, you know, new admin building and complex. But if you look at that first part, we try to do it as broad as possible.
Right.
And the one thing I would say to the board is if you're gonna borrow the money under the Internal Revenue Code regulations, you have to have the reasonable intent. That's the standard, reasonable intent to use the money.
Oh, yeah, well,
Yeah, because back in the day, I hate to say, there were a lot of school districts that have used getting tax exempt money is that they borrow it at 2.62%, and when you could invest it at 3.5%, they would then turn around, invest it at 3.5%, earn what's called arbitrage, and then return the money. And the IRS caught on to that and said, no, you can't do that. You have to at least have a reasonable intent.
yeah, there's no way we'd be reinvesting it and get enough to pay for it today. So,
Wrong direction.
Yeah.
and I think that the difference in the annual debt service is, I think, about $83,000 a year, 3.5 versus 5. So, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I think it makes sense to commit to the 5 million for that 2.62%.
I'm leaning that direction as well, but I do have a couple of questions.
Go.
How much are we planning on putting down, Tom?
We're going to have a cash outlay of 2 million.
Okay.
We don't put anything down toward the loan, but we're gonna.
Yeah, but yes, but we're paying that much out of,
Yeah, the
general.
intent. Yeah, the intent is we're going to pay.
and we're gonna borrow the rest,
Correct.
which is where we're
And
coming.
when
up
I
with
say
5 million.
cash outlay of 2 million, that's where we pay out. We'll put out 2 million, but then we'll reimburse the general fund by the sale of this building.
Okay, all right,
With
that was
a
my
portion of that.
That was my next question. Would the sale of the building be going towards the loan, which it would not? It would go to reimburse, partially reimburse
The general
that 2
fund.
million. All right, have we been in contact with any type of real estate?
Yeah, we had an appraisal
Agencies.
done, what, about a year ago?
I know that was a lowball offer from what I recall.
It was.
750,
We haven't recently.
800.
We have not, yeah, because that was before real
That was
estate
before
went crazy.
increases.
So,
All
Yeah,
right, because that would be very helpful information as well, but
but I think the appraisal we got a year or so ago is certainly on the low side, so that's.
now it's
starting-
850.
Yeah, right around there.
I don't think it makes sense to put money into a building here that we're not fully and adequately using to its potential, maximum potential. I like the idea of having them close together for the ease of staff and maintenance, being able to communicate more efficiently, potentially. I'm sure you communicate lovely now, but it would be easier potentially if you're get a couple of doors down or you know, so many feet away. So I mean, I would be inclined to go with the 5 million amount and do both buildings together, and then look to see what the real estate market can give us for this one.
We have been thinking about hovering a dome over Mike down.
A drone?
A drone
A drone.
over Mike down there so we can see.
I don't think he needs to be micromanaged to that level. I'm normally against micromanagement.
I
But,
agree. Fortunate to have.
that's the direction that I think makes the most sense. From what I'm seeing here, we would be doing the paving. I believe that number's highlighted, so it's coming off the total.
We'll talk about that later, but I mean, that's what we're recommending, definitely,
All
for
right.
our crews to do that. But
What is the access drive? I mean, it's, what's 13,000? Or no, I guess, I'm not sure.
Is
how
that,
to read this chart.
Yeah, that,
What's the access pavement drive? And-
That I believe is, I don't believe, that is for if we don't build the admin building,
So if,
for us to have a little bit of a parking area out front for the emergency management to access their.
gotcha, but as long as the admin building's there, the parking and everything else that would be needed would be available, and then we would not be incurring that $16,000
Correct.
expense. I don't know what bluestone looks like, but I'm sure it's lovely.
It is, it's more,
maybe we want to hold that off till we get to
Okay, I'm
the
sorry.
building. That's okay, to the building itself.
Yeah, I have a question. The 5 million, I understand that that's a drawdown. We would take the 5 million if the loan was approved, right? And if we spent 2 million of it right away, the other 3 million, even though our intent is still to use it, can we park it somewhere and get maybe even 1% or something?
Yeah, so that's where John Fry at PFM would be able to counsel you as to, where you can invest it at.
Okay,
And therefore, yeah, obviously, if you're not going to be using it for a period of time, that it would be in your best interest to try to earn some money off.
right. So that would also offset some of our interest a little bit, at least in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll sort of give you sort of the spend down requirements that when you borrow the money, you have to have the, once again, reasonable intent
right,
to use the money within 3 years.
right. Gotcha.
Now, the code reflects the fact that they get it, that you run into issue, you may not get it all spent within 3 years. And therefore, that's not just a drop dead, you go to IRS jail if that happens. What happens is if you reach that 3-year threshold and you still have money in your construction fund, you have to limit the investment rate on that fund at whatever they call it the arbitrage yield is, which
Gotcha.
is basically the interest rate on the note. As we already discussed, if your interest rate on your note is 2.62%, you're not even getting.
Good luck.
Right,
investing it.
right.
So you'll not, you'll just you'll continue to invest at whatever rate.
One other question I have, I know you already ran the numbers on what we're legally allowed to borrow.
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing, the annual debt service on the 5 million, we would be paying each year roughly $276,000.
Correct.
What percentage of that is what percent of our annual budget? Or not budget, our annual income?
You're asking me a difficult question at this
My
point. I don't
apologies.
know off the top of my head, but I can pull that
Well,
down.
what's our, we close to We're a little less than 4 million.
It's 3 point something but I don't remember.
So it's
The exact
less
number,
than, it's probably 7 or 8% then. Just looking.
Yeah, it's 3 point some million.
So 10% would be 300 and some thousand.
Or something.
Okay, thank you.
So we're under 10%.
I'm fresh out of questions, Chairman.
Did you ask all you wanted to?
For now, just for, in general, that debt service, we talked about that we'd have some savings in electricity and other costs. So that would also help reduce that as well.
Plus you'd have less maintenance. Hopefully you'd have a few years of no maintenance at all.
Right.
And lower
That's something you gotta keep in mind.
Lower utility
And
bills.
how much of that we budget.
Guarantee it'll be
towards it,
lower
too.
utility bills.
It's gotta be, because the amount of, well, and what we're spending to heat this for the amount of usage and everything too.
This, Jeff, is our CPA and elected official, but by
Profession.
occupation, he is a CPA. So we expect him to ask some tough financial questions.
Okay, the toughest one I have is who'll give it to us for free?
Yeah.
Well, we were thinking about yard sales and bake sales.
I can supply some cookies.
Thought about
Any
naming
questions?
rights.
We'll compete with the Maryland Line Fire Station.
And the other ones you got. Well, we've all had a chance to ask questions, and I guess to debate a bit in our own minds. I would go ahead and make a motion that we would contract for the $5 million loan at the 25 years at the quoted 2.62 fixed finance amount. Is that a,
If I could just modify that motion a little.
please?
So we prepared an ordinance which would do exactly what you said, is to approve the CNN bank proposal of $5 million and authorize the township to proceed with the TCED application. It hires stock leader, bond counsel, PFM as your financial advisor, appoints the bank as the paying agent under the Local Government Unit Debt Act. It has all the bells and whistles that you need in order to comply with the Local Government Unit Debt Act. So the motion should really be to approve ordinance 2021. I don't know if you know how you number your ordinance.
Yeah, I'd have to look
Yeah,
to see what number.
give us a
we're on.
number.
But it's 2021 dash.
Whatever the next
Yeah.
number is.
Yeah, we haven't had any word.
Has that been reviewed by you or counsel, solicitor, anybody, or is it a pretty,
No, that's what he's there.
so that's
for.
what we're
Yes.
employing him as our
Yes.
counsel
Yeah,
for
so
this?
Yeah,
you're
it's-
engaging me to provide, I have a fiduciary relationship with you. to make sure
Okay.
we're doing the right thing.
It all rests on Steve's shoulders.
Yeah.
So basically,
And you say that jokingly, but at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we issued an opinion that
No.
says everything is done right. So
All
if
right.
it's not done right, yeah, it comes back.
I was serious.
You were serious.
so Steve is our Tim Buck when it comes to,
To
This
this
financial
yes, that's
transaction.
correct.
so we're 2021 dash,
I will get that number, but,
Come on. Is it at the top of your printout? I
No,
thought I saw you
I have
had it.
2021 dash blank, and we usually, yeah.
Okay. Somebody's ringing. One of these mics is,
I had a,
it's, okay, all right.
I just
stop.
silenced my phone, I had a couple
No,
of
no, no, no,
texts.
I'm talking about the hum and the.
Oh, okay. Do we want to wait? I guess we should have the number to,
Oh, it's coming.
oh, okay.
yeah, I apologize here. I can't tell you when we did our last ordinance.
Not sure.
Resolution, that doesn't do it.
Did we do any this year?
I know we've done one or two.
Have we done one since the, hate to bring it up,
Actually,
but
no,
since the group
the
home?
ordinances we were doing were amendments and changes.
Yeah,
like
we
the
never,
signs.
we did not enact any of those yet.
Wow.
So it would be 2021-01.
Yeah, because we didn't do any changes, so. Yeah, so it'd be 2021-01.
All
It's been
right.
a light year.
Yes, it has.
I will rephrase my motion then and make a motion that we approve ordinance 2021-01 with regard to borrowing for the municipal complex.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have discussion after that? Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. 5 votes to the affirmative. That motion is approved, and I guess Steve gets to do a little more work.
Thank you. So I look forward to working with you. What will happen is we'll do the application for DCD, ultimately they'll approve it. We'll start working on the closing documents. About 30 days, and I don't know if we have a specific closing date, but in about 30 days, I'll need to meet with the secretary as well as the board chair. We'll sign all the loan closing documents, and then on the date of closing, we'll declare that the transaction closed, and the bank will transfer into their construction fund $5 million.
Okay.
Yeah, John has a date of September 2nd.
Okay.
And who would do the notification that we've passed the ordinance to
That's
the
my-
bank?
That's
Okay.
my responsibility to do that, and we'll have it to the newspaper tomorrow to run on Friday.
Okay.
How long do you have to run it, or how many times?
We have to run one time within 15 days from the date that you approved it.
Okay.
So
And which-
what we have, and then DCD has 20 days to actually approve the application. So the timing's always, you need to get the adding right away, get it to the DCD so we can get to a September 2nd
Yeah.
closing,
Mhm.
so that the approval, because one of the conditions of closing is actually having the DCD.
What paper do you run this in?
Your daily record.
Your paper? Okay.
Yeah.
A paper of record, it just happens to have record in its name.
So that covers Shrewsbury Township then?
That does. It has to be a newspaper of local circulation.
Okay.
It's pretty much just the.
That's about the only
Dispatch are
one.
the only
Yeah,
two in New York.
exactly.
Unless we're running the Baltimore Sun.
No. Well, and right now, the York Daily Record and Dispatch, they run it simultaneously. So if you do one, you get it in both. But they're right now the most reliable one. The Patriots tablet is running the newspaper 3 days a week.
I wonder what
Oh,
the
wow.
readership is in the township.
It's pretty heavy, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know who reads all the notices about like this, but if you just look at papers laying in people's driveways or in their mailbox in the morning, it's pretty well just,
Right. Yeah, I hope the law, that the most recent amendment to the sunshine law, where you now need to post your agenda online and stuff like that, spurs on the legislature to now allow legal notices to be publicly posted on a
Right.
website versus continuing running the newspaper. Because the unfortunate part is what we've seen over the last few years as readership has gone down, the legal ad notice costs have gone up.
Wow.
So they're unfortunately funding a lot of their newspaper expenses through you guys.
Yeah, our ad for this building was almost $1,000,
I know, we're not,
but everything you have to put in it,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I do have a number of documents for signature and seal. So Todd, I can leave these with you
Sure.
and have someone pick them up later. I don't want to interrupt your meeting. I know you got a lot
Sure.
of stuff to consider. But it's the two versions of the ordinance, so you can keep one,
Okay.
I'll get one. It has all the exhibits already attached
Okay.
to it, as well as it's the signature pages just for the DCD application.
Okay,
So it's sort of self-explanatory, where it's the chairman or secretary to sign it and seal it. And we'll get the application done ASAP.
okay, good.
all right. Sounds good.
Yep.
Great. All
Yes,
right.
great.
I look forward to working with the township again. It's always a pleasure. And,
We thank you for your efforts so far and
yeah,
feel fortunate we've seen rates like we are.
yeah. Well, and the unfortunate part is a lot of our other clients, school districts and things like that have been shocked with the costs they've gotten when they've gone out to bid, especially, the last few months. And it's crazy time.
We
So you're
know.
not alone.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
great to see
Great.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
all right, that's probably the easy part.
Mhm.
So now we have a number of, I guess, possibilities to look at. And as Jeff said and I said, we kind of need to look at, I think, the whole financial picture, including money we may save, we may not have to spend, and to really get down to it. When when I do all that without going through numbers, I think the amount to add the admin building is about $1 million. If we take into account, it's about 2 million more if you look at the raw numbers, which Todd can walk us through. But if we get somewhere between 800 and I hope $1 million, when and if we sell this, along with some money we would have to spend to improve what we have here, some of the things that both Jeffs have said, it continues to gnaw away at the difference between doing just a piece of it or doing all of it. At the same time, certainly we cannot leave out the taxpayer and what burden the taxpayer is taking on as we do all this. And it's amazing to me that we've had very, very little input from the outside world on such a big project when it's been front page on our newsletter, it's been in our social media, it's on our website.
And you haven't heard anything from anybody.
Nothing.
I have not received one single call, question, or
I
comment.
probably heard more from my wife. You're going to spend how much on a bill?
I heard that from well, I shouldn't say that. I did hear from one person, but they don't even live in this town.
The biggest thing I've heard is, that I've heard from anybody is they think it's awful what's happening cost-wise, but at the same time, it's like I've gotten feedback that they think it's due.
Yeah.
So.
So do
Well, and
we,
that's the other thing too, is, when you weigh, if you don't do the admin building now, you'll save that money now, but then the question is, down the road, what's it gonna cost to do plans and bidding and all that again, which is a small part, but are you going to see rates like this?
No.
So will you, at the end of the day, will you have saved anything?
Yeah, so we're saving money on rates, even though we're paying more on construction costs.
And again, I know, like with construction, I know lumber's coming down, but I have been on the internet a lot, looking at steel futures and the trends that it's been on or whatever.
I'm hearing
And-
steel's 2 years away.
And steel is, 2 years, and they're not sure it'll come down then. And it just, unfortunately, everybody's paying the price. So even if it comes down some, I question how much it'll come down, it just.
Simple
I don't know.
economics,
It's just-
people are gonna pay it, it's gonna stay.
I
Do
think
you have
this,
a ballpark estimate of what we spent already, just for our help with our analysis?
On
Yeah.
plans.
The analysis
planning
up
and
front, well, the plans and specs and all that was put to you like this, the plans, the specs, the bidding, and then the inspection and carrying through when everything's going to be about 350,000 is what we will have spent. And I don't remember the exact number right now, what we've already spent, but it's been over 200,000.
We've already spent 200.
Yes. I can get that number if you want an exact.
No, we were talking
Yeah.
about what if there was a
Yeah.
delay and you had to redo it, so the number's 200,000.
And again, not that it's a tremendous amount of money, but, if we rebid it, even with some changes or whatever, we're gonna have to redo bid specs, plans, which will be additional above and beyond our agreement.
And the 200,000 includes like architect and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the electrical, plumbing, but yeah,
but it's,
No, I'm just,
yeah.
it's all the drawings, documentation, the bid packages that went out, review of those packages.
Plan, the bid
Plans.
specifications, plan documents, just getting the plans together and, that involved that included the engineering firm to do our land development plan, run through all that, included what's Kathy's civil engineer, I guess, do all the plans for the grading and.
Went on the other side and did some work on furniture and fixture and
Yeah.
equipment. Just a number to throw out is to kind of delve into these is the land development part. no building at all yet, just the land, or isn't that about $1,000,001?
The estimate was 1.7 originally. And then I know Kathy went through and everything, and then, again, this was the original estimate. I think we got it down to like 1.2. So it's well over $1 million for.
And the majority of that has to be done, whether we do the admin building or not. There's no
Correct.
real savings if we don't
Yeah,
do the
when
admin.
we had the last meeting, we talked to Kathy about that, that's the civil engineer. And when you think about it, you look at the scope of the project, everything else has to be done. So if you were to rebid it without, say, you would decide, well, we're not ever gonna do an admin building, so don't even put the pad in. When you look at the grand scheme of the whole project, that pad's a very small, flat component, and it really would save a tremendous amount of money. Because a lot of it involves like the stormwater, the drainage system, the rain garden, septic system, all that. And then, of course, the leveling of the lot.
And that was a shocking number too, but we walked through, there've been a number
Yeah,
of.
they walked through it, and Jeff Shue, our engineer, walked through it. And
Yeah, we've had Jeff Shue and his group do some sanity checks on some of this too, as to, you know, where he thinks it's reasonable.
It's
So,
amazing because the lot behind the building actually looks pretty level. You know, I know there's a slope to it, but it's not hilly or anything.
yeah, because they're actually, the good thing is we don't have to bring any fill in.
a lot of it's stormwater.
Because we're gonna actually, do you remember, Mike,
Got
what
this
depth
piece.
along 83 we're gonna actually, do you remember that? That might be right. It's not, yeah, so we'll be going back, back along 83, what you see now is the finished grade, it's gonna be down roughly around 4 feet.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, so they'll pull that material out and that'll be used to do the infill and everything for the admin building, so.
Well, there's an area in the back that actually has an elevation too, and then it comes back down. Well, you don't want that water coming into your new building.
Right.
All that has to be excavated out.
And just before we get into specifics, I think, you know, another thing to, yeah, where was my mind? Geez, had something I was gonna say, but, it was along you know, there may be other things, not other things we can do ourselves, but, certainly as you separate these tasks, it means you'd be at a later date, bringing all the equipment back in and a lot of other things is going to make that more expensive as you go along. And again, to me, the key number, whenever we have to get to talking to taxpayers, is what that it costs a year to carry that debt. And I don't think under 300,000 sounds horrible, you know, for the benefit that it gets you. Do we want to kind of, we've got a lot of
Do you
options.
wanna walk through the bids and,
Kind of how that relates to the options.
well, I guess the question is there any strong feeling from the board members of eliminating the admin building?
My opinion, I want to try and do it. It's my opinion, because if we don't do it now, it's not going to happen.
Correct.
That's my opinion.
I think you're right, Jeff. I think it's now or never.
Right. It's do it, the whole works, or, you know, that's just my feeling. Because the debt we'll have, you will not, you know, and that debt's here for 25 years. Not, you know, unless we pay it down, but I don't see us going back and getting the admin bill into 5 or 10 years or anything like that. It ain't like, you know, we know we got money coming for it later. So I think if we're going to do it, we got to do the works now and be done with it.
You know, another thing is, I was going to say, when it comes to all the money too, there may be pieces of this that we could still look at American Rescue Funds. Like, we don't have the lobby here to separate people. We don't have the restroom that people can use without walking through the place. So does it matter whether we spend that money here or take a portion of what we're
We
doing?
can definitely use it on stormwater components.
And we can use it on the audio visual.
On the audio visual aspect of it.
So we've got 3 years to get smart in how we use that, and we may be able to use that. It was only a couple $100,000, that still was a help.
It helps.
you know. So,
Originally, I was thinking to maybe not do the admin building, but if we were thinking about, then we still have to spend 250,000 on this building, then I don't think that makes sense. If we're gonna sell the building, I think if we added 250, it wouldn't necessarily increase the value of the building because someone else might have a completely different usage.
Yep.
Everything that we have is fine. So I still think that, again, if we sell the, I mean, I see what the prices for local homes, smaller homes are going for. You know, let's say it's 400,000 or something like that for 2,600 square feet.
Yeah.
This has to be now worth over $1 million, I would think, as is. And I think putting 250 in this building would be a waste.
do you think I'm off on that? I mean, that's,
No,
I don't want to mislead anybody. Is that a
no.
reasonable?
You know, the things we talked about that if we're gonna stay here, that we should probably do to make it a long-term usable building.
Well, even if you have
That's all.
restrooms for people walking in, this shop floor and that floor out there is all heated. So I don't, you know. I don't
Oh, yeah,
know
you
if
can't even, yeah,
plumbing
that'd be a little tough to run plumbing, I guess.
is all for it.
Yeah. I didn't
I'm
think
sorry,
about-
Mike, what'd you say? About the floors?
This, the shop area here, that's a heated.
That's
floor.
heated floor.
And the office out there is a heated floor.
In the office, when he says about the office, it's really where Wendy, Terry, and Megan, and the
Yeah, it don't
kitchen, and,
matter.
but
You're all-
back where the storage files are, where that's forced hot
So
air.
this floor is heated in the bays.
But now you're moving far away from your septic system. So you're trying to do public bathroom.
Yeah, so you're right, I didn't think about that, trying to cut up the floor out front there in the conference room. Not that it can't be done, but it'll.
I think you wanted to interject something. Ken.
Yeah, if I can say something.
Absolutely.
What's the age of this building?
It has 3 birthdays.
Are we talking in the 1970s?
Oh, yeah.
The
initial
original.
Building,
No,
The original in the
The original?
70s?
no.
No?
late 70s.
Remember the restaurant here?
Yeah, one, that was,
Because I remember going to the movie theater next door here.
okay.
Driving, and I don't think this building was here though.
Well, I think what I'm getting at is, your energy usage for this building compared to a new building, the energy code really jacked things up. And the R values required for walls and roof, it's, you know, the energy savings that you would see, I think would be significant.
Well, it's just, I was telling them earlier, I don't think you were here, but like that section that where I'm in, my office is in, if I have the air set at, say, at 72, because you have to set it, you can't set it for more than 4 hours, you gotta go all the time. But I kid you not, it can go up about 4 or 5 degrees in an hour when that air shuts off. This building is, the energy efficiency is horrible.
The mechanical system is not,
Yeah.
it's pretty.
You're right, Mike. It would have been 80s this was built.
What's it?
Yeah, so there's.
It's
Yours is
80s.
probably
It
worse.
wasn't bad.
There's quite an increase in energy conservation.
Oh, yeah.
Then till now.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time, that can impact the sell price we would get for this, because somebody buying it could recognize that too.
And hopefully they'll listen to these tapes.
But, like you said,
Delete.
what people are getting for houses, or what it would cost to reproduce this today with today's cost of steel and concrete and wood. I think the price has done nothing but go up in this since we had, and, I don't know, my gut feel is you ought to be looking at about $1 million for this. That's half of what it would cost to do a new admin building, maybe more. Yeah, plus all the other things that you're saying.
Can I talk freely?
Absolutely, that's why you're here.
And I've talked to a lot of contractors in Maryland, in central Pennsylvania, and they're all saying the same darn thing, that the prices are astronomical, they're going up. They don't even see an end to anything, like steel, they don't say 2 years. They just said it's just unknown, and I suspect that it's gonna keep going. And I suspect that the interest rates are gonna go up. I talked to Frank Dittday from my boss. He and I talked about it, and we said, man, 2.62, crow.
Yeah,
That's
that is
incredible.
especially
For
fixed
this
for
time,
25
for
years
this
is the
time of
amazing part to
economy.
me.
That's incredible.
Probably a mistake. We gotta get a lot of.
And that's what makes, and that's what, and for,
Fixed, not variable.
and for me, that's what makes it hard for me to walk away from
Yeah.
it, because
Yeah,
you'll never get that again.
that's right.
And that's a huge savings in itself, I think.
And I was talking to Scott Eichelberger from ECI, and I told him this too. And that they did Dover Township, I don't know if I want to call it a campus study, but very similar to what we're doing here, a year and a half ago. And they were in the same predicament, and the prices kept going up and up. And Scott told the board at a regular board meeting, he said, I recommend that you guys continue the course, go with the building, and so don't rebid it. And so what they did was, the board said, we're gonna value engineer some of the parts of the building out, and we're gonna rebid it. Well, what happened is, when they did that, they went through that process, and time had passed by after, rebidding and all that. The prices went up that much that if they would have stayed the course, they would have gotten everything in their base bid package without having to worry about anything. The prices went up that much. It just went.
Yeah, reverse.
I mean, it was, and then now the Dover Township was upset. They were upset. They didn't listen to the contractor. So now they don't have everything they wanted. And I think they locked off parts of the building. So,
Do you think there's any potential for any kind of resistance or kickback from any of these contractors if steel prices and so forth go up? Are they going to come back to us and say, hey, we know this was our bid, but?
yeah, because they asked me, can you contact these two low bidders and see if they'll hold out till the 29th, tomorrow? Well, I could try. I didn't have a very good feeling about it, but I did ask them, and it wasn't an immediate response that I got from both of the contractors that had to stop and think about it. They called me back there, oh, okay, we'll hold our bids for that. Both of them agreed, sort of reluctantly, okay? But the next day, the one told me, I already know I got a cost increase on copper wire and copper piping. The other one said, if I don't lock in this pre-engineered building today, I know that the prices of the steel of the building, is going up. I'm gonna eat it.
But
I don't want this job.
They have no cost escalation clauses in their contracts or anything.
Not that I know, no, not that I know.
Because the worst thing would be we plan on this as the cost and somebody says, I need another $250,000 to cover the cost of steel.
Yeah. And, what was I gonna say?
I mean, I think they're pretty hungry of the competitiveness of the bids.
They are. If you look at these bids, oh my God, this is incredible. The two lowest bids, that how close.
Yeah, it's a
they were. You don't
5.1
even-
million bid here. If you look, and it's a difference of $3,000
Yeah, $3,000.
in a 5.1 million bid.
That's unheard of. That is really unheard of. And then when you look at all four of them, that's pretty good too. That's a pretty good, not too far apart spread.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, that shows that it's pretty good pricing.
Pretty
They're
good price.
Pretty good bids.
Both of these two low bidders are very hungry. I can't tell you how many times they call me. Kevin, what have you heard? I'm sorry, I can't tell you. I don't know. Oh, can I come to the meeting? I'm sorry, you can't come to the meeting. Well, can I do a Zoom? Or can I get on the web so I can, to listen to what you guys have to say tonight? I don't know that they do that.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't want to commit to anything.
they actually can after the
Well,
fact.
I just didn't want to.
They can, but it's good that they don't
Yeah.
participate in the conversation.
No, plus I don't think we get this on the next day either.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell you right now that one of them told me, and I suspect the other one did too. The other one already ordered the steel for this building.
Just took,
Whoa, we did? He said, we did, we had to lock it in, so, you know, we don't have to wait, and the prices increase, we locked it in right now. Oh, okay. And they said, we need an answer, I'm sorry, guys, but they said, we need an answer today or tomorrow at the latest. That's what we told them.
the one thing that, just maybe before we get the specifics again, that we kind of look at, that we still think there's a potential for savings is the salt shed. And in fact, Mike has looked at the potential for even taking what Keystone, you probably know them, does, and finishing it themselves. Now, is that something you think that they would negotiate with us on?
Yeah,
Could we
I
delete?
talked to Scott Eichelberger about that, and he's the one who told me that company, he gave me the whole rundown, how they do it, and what they do, and they partner up with another company to then finish all the wood and the siding and the roof and all that.
And Mike
So
says,
it's all one complete package.
and Mike says he can do all that himself.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, so I think if one thing we were thinking is maybe a change order to just eliminate the salt shed.
Yeah, not to
And I
rebid.
talked to Frank about that, because there was two options, that, and the other one would be to, reject all the bids and rebid it minus the salt shed.
Yeah.
That's one, but the other one was saying, okay, we'll accept all the bids, and then we're gonna have a change order debit, you know, or credit for the salt shed. And
Which is
Frank and I
probably,
said, man, that's the way to go.
yeah, because,
That's the way to go, because if you reject the bids all, then your prices are still going up, and your bills are still going up, and then you're really in trouble.
And you don't think that'd be an issue for either of the,
No.
I mean, it's a
Frank and I talked about
small-
that, and we can do that all in one point in time. It doesn't have to be later.
Right.
A credit. It
and
can be done right up
and
front.
it's not a big effort on a lot of more money for drawings or documentation.
no, there's,
I know that we have power going out to the salt shed. So we gotta do that. And, so what we would do is have a pad, an even pad, that someone can come in and put a precast unit on and build up. But, you know, the rest of it's all stone, okay, so we have a level pad, and we get the power out there, and that's it. You know, as far as the drawings, the specs maybe the specs might take more time than anything because of the way it's worded, because it was phase one for the salt shed, that had to be done first. So, you know, some of the language in the front end, what I call the front end of the specs, has to be tweaked, and some of the probably civil drawings would have to be tweaked. I don't know that there's a lot there for the architectural review.
yeah, I was gonna say, I
It doesn't
just,
seem like a lot.
no, I wouldn't think there'd be much involved at all. It's just,
Oh,
because for the general contract, you're just removing, you would be, you would be doing a change order to delete the salt building. And we have a separate electrical contract, and that wouldn't be affected.
yeah,
We're still doing the site prep,
yeah.
you know, so,
In my mind, though, I think it's a timing issue, maybe.
yeah.
You know, because you gotta, you know, get the salt out and whatever, and,
Well, the building we're having to put up, in my existing salt company moved back, and if it's during the winter, I gotta have somewhere to store the salt.
right,
And I do not need electric at that building just for loading trucks. You know,
Sure.
The loader's got lights, the truck's got lights.
sure. I think, it's a little bit of timing though, too, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very doable.
I think
Yeah.
so.
And we're probably looking at, with the lowest bidder, somewhere around 450,000. And and it was coincidental that Kevin had mentioned this Keystone Concrete Products, because Mike, Art, and I met with them yesterday morning before I even got Kevin's email. And for 16-foot walls precast, we came up with roughly 80,000.
And it's roughly
For
same
the-
dimension
yeah.
as what we have.
And
And how much were they gonna charge us to do it? 450?
450,000 up, but keep in mind what that included though, those were poured in place.
Right.
Concrete
Concrete
walls, so they would be out there forming up with the rebar and all of that, so.
That included. the-
But
as well.
it's this company here, I think I gave you a little
Yeah.
brochure there, so.
Plus you still have to do the pad and the
And-
roof and the trusses and all that.
And we would probably,
We still have to buy that.
yeah. and-
Okay, so that 80 is only for the precast and then the roof over top.
Just the wall.
Just the walls are
Just
80.
the walls.
All right, so still the pad and then the
It's still a
roof.
very significant savings.
Yeah.
Well, and then one of the things that he was talking about is the prevailing wage rate. you know,
That's
so-
the other thing,
So
right?
if it's in shop, in the precast
Right.
shop, they're taking care of all that stuff, and it wouldn't have to have a prevailing wage.
'Cause-
As I understood from Scott Eichelberger, is that it's up to a certain dollar value that you don't have to take care of prevailing wage, as I understood it.
Yeah, well, they told us they would not be paying prevailing wages in their shop for this, and that would be a big difference. In one site, you're gonna pay prevailing wages, which might be double, what their shop rate is.
Yeah, right.
So that, and then the other thing, just quickly deduct alternate number 4, which is eliminate maintenance area pavement. We would still do that, but Mike and the crew we just do that in-house, so it would be just purchasing the material. So there'd be no
Okay.
markup on the material and you wouldn't be paying prevailing wage.
All right. And we're not gonna need the access drive if we have the app.
Yeah, so I guess if we could do it this way, am I hearing from everyone, you're gonna keep the admin building in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing that. So what I'm
Right.
doing here, this is just my little worksheet here, so. Do you want to eliminate the Blue Star lobby for polished?
Not from what
Concrete.
Kevin's told me about Bluestone. I would like to see a picture though.
Frankly, for, actually do in the back if you want to see them.
Please.
That's a difference of 19,000, right?
I don't want to get us in trouble.
But 19,000 isn't what we're talking about.
No, I know, I say for 19,000,
Well, if you look at the spreadsheet here that we put the blue tabulation, I don't know if you have that, not in front of you. That's
type of-
alternate number 2.
This type of floor versus,
And here's a
Home Depot.
price difference between the 4 of them. I mean, it's a good
Need
price
paint?
difference.
just the polished concrete, kind of stained
Oh, that,
concrete floor, or a tile floor,
and that's for the office?
for the main foyer.
The main foyer.
Come in the front door.
Now, what about this is polished concrete?
No,
No, it can be polished.
no, what this is, what that deduct is to not do this type of floor.
Oh,
Tile
for
floor,
polished concrete.
and do polished concrete like you see at home, stained concrete like you see at Home Depot.
Yeah,
Those are
okay.
both blue star.
Yeah, yeah, so it's a variation.
Yeah.
I don't want to nitpick, but it looks like Greystone to me.
And
But I'm not a contractor, so.
and if you look at the prices between the 4 contractors for that deduct, the low one is $1,900 for ECI, and the high one is $23,000. So there's a pretty good spread. I don't know if somebody did.
Hold it, now you have 19?
19,000.
1,900.
19,000 to 23, or actually.
That's what's on our spreadsheet.
That's what's on ours.
Yeah, I took my numbers off of
1,900.
Blake's. Now, maybe
I'm
Blake,
looking at this, and it says $1,900.
okay, well, I have what he wrote out that day. Maybe when he went back and verified it, it was a difference.
Oh,
That's
that's probably
That's a
sounds more
10%.
like it.
But you're,
10% of what is up there.
Yeah, because the high one is $23,000.
Yeah,
So
you got a
I think-
15.
I think you're right.
Keep the blue star.
Yeah, I think so too.
Bluestone it is.
Okay.
but in addition to alternate 4 going away, so is alternate 3 then.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
That was for the
No, we're-
admin bin.
We're
Admin
keeping
budget.
alternate 2, correct?
No, because alternate two is to eliminate the bluestone.
Never mind, carry on. I think we're getting rid of everything.
Right. Now,
Or, no,
No,
we're
we're not.
eliminating the access drive.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're
never
gonna,
mind.
we're gonna
Never
accept
mind.
this.
That was for access drive to the admin office, right?
Well, if you remember that connector piece that would have like Mike's office, the maintenance lunchroom and everything, and then we had the, emergency management room. Do you remember that? Kind of connecting the admin and the maintenance building. That piece would still be on. So this was to allow some parking mainly for emergency management out the front there.
which we won't need now.
Yeah.
Now, the only other thing we had talked about is
Let me do this.
if the schedule were, and again, I don't know if we could do that without rebidding, which we don't want to do, but that if the schedule was extended a little bit, some of the subcontractors maybe could have been better in their pricing. Wasn't that some feedback we got?
I think it's gonna get worse. I'm almost guaranteed it's gonna get worse. It really is.
Because of deliveries of materials.
Daily, they have.
I know you were saying copper.
I thought this was more that, they were really busy now, and if they could do it later, it might.
Yeah, there was some discussion about that with them, but then we would be extending the contract terms too.
Yeah, so and then we open ourselves up to anything.
Yes.
It's locked in.
Yeah, Jeff, here's where I was talking about. If we didn't do the admin, the maintenance building would cut off here.
Oh, I see.
So this would stay.
That's part of it.
And since the emergency management has access from the front, that would be a small access drive to allow them to access the front of the emergency management room there.
Oh, okay, so we don't need it.
So we don't need that.
Gotcha, okay.
And if we had to do some things like an antenna or something to the emergency management, they do have a fund that they haven't had to touch yet. So
Right.
they may be able to help with a few $1,000s there.
Okay. So,
I'm trying to think if there are any other,
I suppose we have a generator in the plan, right?
yes,
yes. Mhm.
one or two now if we do
No, I think it's
both.
just one.
I think it's just one.
One takes care of both
One
buildings,
should be
Yeah.
enough.
because now we have one here and there.
Just
Well, I'll
one.
feel better knowing if the power goes out in the middle of the board meeting, we can continue on.
Sometimes that's good.
We're going-
Sometimes we'd be better off going home.
300 kilo.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Any questions as we kind of zero in on this? I guess essentially, if we look at what you gave us, Todd, we're looking at have you already incorporated in the 6,724,000, all the deducts and all? And
Here's what I'm doing. if-
okay,
if you
I'll let
can.
you do it.
Yeah, the general construction, we're awarding the base bid and awarding deduct alternate number 4. Kevin, do you know, I don't think we need to act on the ones we're rejecting, only what we're awarding.
The totals on the right up there.
All right.
Yeah.
49.
So we would be awarding, because we're gonna have, you can either do it as one motion, but we're gonna have to spell it out. So the general contract then would be awarded to ECI Construction at their base bid of $5,146,000, and awarding the deduct alternate number 4.
What about 3? Or is
No,
that-
because we don't want
We're the deduct 3 eliminated the paving.
yeah, well, that's to eliminate if we didn't do, that really comes into play if we do away with the admin, if we did away with the admin building.
But once you put the admin building in, that's already.
That's already part of the paving.
And that's reflected in their price.
Mhm, Correct.
Okay.
You don't have to really say the numbers, but you could,
And you have the add alternates 5 and 6.
that doesn't apply in the general.
And we're limiting the maintenance area payment because Mike's group's gonna do it?
Yeah, so we'll just buy materials and our crews
As we
will
go
do
along.
it.
I like to think of them as our group.
That's the heating up in front of the maintenance.
Now, do we have to award separate contracts for plumbing, electrical, and mechanical, or is that?
We do, yes.
So we don't have basically a general contractor, or is that,
That is ECI, this first group here.
but they don't award the contracts for the plumbing and all that?
No.
No, it's multiple prime contracts, that's what they call
But we're not gonna have to manage any of them.
it. ECI is the prime contractor who oversees the other primes, coordinates and all that stuff, but the other primes, electric, plumbing, and mechanical, they're their own individual. But the general contractor oversees them all.
And we will be paying,
Scheduling and all that.
we'll be paying,
Coordination of
Right.
all the trades.
Yes.
Right.
And schedules and whatnot.
so basically we award the contract and we'll pay them.
What's that?
We would award the contract and then they'll bill us, not,
Yeah.
right. Just
Their
thinking separate.
application for payments come to me, I look at them to see that what they're saying is really in fact done. I say, no, you didn't complete that, you have to adjust that and redo it and send it back. Once I do that, then I send, then I make recommendation for payment in this amount for this prime, that prime, send all the zig, and then
Okay.
brings up the board meeting for review and approval.
And of course, we'll have inspections by the inspection agency, whichever
Yeah,
one
That's a third party inspector.
we use, that's a third-party inspector.
Have to take care of that.
But we will not have any involvement from CS Davidson
No.
in this. So we won't get any duplication for engineering fees. or
CS
anything.
Davidson will only be involved in the contract that we awarded for the stormwater basin
Right.
last month.
Right.
That will be their only involvement.
Yeah, we did award that one, if you weren't aware.
When making this motion, we need to reference the base bid and then the deduct alternate 4 for the first one, and then add alternate 5 and 6 for the electrical, correct?
Correct.
May I make a motion?
Can I ask one other question?
By all means.
Was it determined, since we have a fire chief sitting here with us, was it determined that we did not have to sprinkler the maintenance building, or that we did?
We do
Let's
not.
see, I gotta remember here. The maintenance building required to be sprinkled, re-engineered building. And I believe I recall that we didn't have to do it for the administration building. We have a 2-hour fire masonry wall separation between the two, and fire rate door to go from one to the other. But I believe, as I recall, we had the sprinkler system for the middle building.
I knew we didn't have to sprinkler the admin building. I know there was discussion back and forth,
Yeah.
because that's not inexpensive either.
No, it's not. And as I found out, trying to push an answer from Commonwealth Code Inspection Services, Pete Schilling, I believe I understood that it was approved, plans were approved.
Yep, we have our permits.
We have our permits, he reviewed the documents, all the code requirement stuff, sprinkler stuff.
Okay.
That was all in there. So he approved it.
I just thought Tony might be interested, since, from Shrewsbury Fire Department. And he's gracious enough to come to just about all our meetings, and the only visitor to
Even when
this
he's on
one.
vacation.
Police sergeant. Let's go back to Virginia.
Okay. Now, the floor is yours.
I would make a motion to award contract for general construction to ECI Construction, the base bid amount of $5.146 million, minus deduct alternate 4 in the amount of $238,000.
For a total
for a total of $4.908 million. Do we have to do these separately, or can I do all of them together?
I think you can do them all together, but it's
In
important
that
to
case-
name all of them.
In that case, yes.
Okay, but you repeat that number, please?
The total number?
Yes.
4.908 million. Additionally, award the plumbing contract to Man Plumbing and Heating in the amount of $333,957. The electrical contract to Lobar Incorporated, in the amount of $829,000 for the base bid, and add alternate 5 and 6 for a total of $34,000 in additions for a total of $863,000. And finally, the mechanical being awarded to North Bay Mechanical in the amount of $620,000.
I will tell you that these primes that are listed here, that you just mentioned, they work well together. We just did Spring Garden Township with those, except for Maine.
Okay.
But all the others are on the Spring Garden Township, ECI, North Bay. You know, we have a whole list of contractors we sent out, ask quotes and stuff. So these are a good bunch of guys to work with. They're used to the multiple prime contracts, so that's a good thing.
Good, very good.
I've had nothing but good experience with them.
All I need is a second.
Well, interesting that Lobar, who was the second lowest bidder, will be the prime for electrical.
They have
The
GC,
official
and they also
total,
have the
that'll
CC
change a little
part of
bit.
their business.
6.4 though, isn't it?
Now, you want to use this one because we didn't do any change orders yet.
All right, if I may continue with my motion.
Yes, sir. Sorry that I interrupted.
No,
I was
I thought I
following
was
the-
done.
I was following the flow.
I thought I was done.
Oh,
For a total bid award in the amount of $6.724957 million. My apologies for the extended decimal point. It may or may not have been easier.
Thank you for the motion.
Did that number, would that include the deduction from number 4?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it did.
Now, just as a
Came
point
down
of,
from
just a
5.1.
point of information, what you see down below here,
That's the elimination of salt shed.
this is the elimination of the salt shed and an estimated cost for the new salt shed, which should bring it down around 6.424. But that's to be worked out later, so it's nothing official at this point.
Okay, you had a question? Go ahead.
Well, you see, I thought he quoted this price here, but when he made the motion.
It's the same price. So I think your question was, does the 6724957 include the deduction for alternate 4?
Yeah, it does.
It does not include the deduction for the salt shed.
I don't know if you can see it here real well, but the base bid for ECI is 5.146. The deduct is 238, which brings that base bid to 4908.
So I guess the puzzlement was you have the same 6724959 or 957 number as a total, which is the same as the total in the base bid.
Correct, because the highlighted, if I may, Todd, the highlighted total on this sheet is everything added up and subtracted that's highlighted.
So it's deducted
So
at the bottom.
the deduct alternate 4 is
Yeah.
highlighted, so it's already factored into that
Yeah,
total.
if you look here, I did it across the side here. So you have 5.146, delete 238,000 out of that.
All right.
So the general contract will be 4.908.
But you had also deducted that out of your total on the left hand.
Yeah,
side.
because this here is just an addition of these
This-
4 figures
This
in
is
this far
deducted
column.
out of there. That makes sense?
I've got a question. Since ECI and
Okay, I
Lowbar
didn't
for
think
the
we had that
general
biggest number there,
construction,
and I
there's
put this
only a
number off of it.
$3,000 difference. Should they be awarded the job when they're also doing the electrical? I mean, is there a
This is-
better
This is all
synergy
eliminated,
or
this, right?
still, no? Okay, just based on your last
This number
comment.
here,
about
we
the
eliminate this.
existing job.
Well, Todd said it's already eliminated
Yeah, okay.
automatically by his total.
Just leave
but
it as
asking
is,
to make
okay.
sure. Yeah, that was, I noted that too, but
You know, really, if,
hopefully they're friendly.
one was enacted, then Lowbar would have been.
Right. Yeah, if we wouldn't have done the admin building, Lowbar would have ended up being the lowest
Right.
GC.
Okay, well, I didn't know if there was better synergy
No,
with Lowbar's.
they're separate.
Yeah, and the other,
But they're under.
Okay, so their income tax returns are all under one, okay.
I don't know that, I can't answer that.
Consolidate.
I really hope I don't have to make my
I
motion.
know we're doing a lot of talking, so we probably should have a second before we continue to discuss. So is
I mean,
there,
I can make the motion again if you guys have 5 more minutes.
No,
no, we got it.
is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Now we can open for discussion, and I think Bob's still confused, Todd, and if he said he
We have a
adds,
calculator.
if he adds up all the yellows going down, all right, he gets, what are you saying you're getting?
Well, I'm just taking this 238 off of it, and I get 6,486,000.
Okay.
Yeah, but did he add the 17s
Oh, you gotta add these two to them?
Yeah,
for electrical?
14,000.
Add alternate 5 and 6 has to be added, so that's 34,000 that you're adding.
Oops.
All right, what he's doing is adding up all your yellows under the base bid, then subtracting 238 out of that.
238's already been subtracted out.
That's what he's having trouble.
Okay, 238's already retracted.
Okay.
The 720, the 724, 957 makes sense with the 4 deducted out and with adding 17
Okay,
and everything.
all right.
Because I just went through it again.
Okay, I'm
You good? Trust his calculator?
I was having trouble with it too.
Are there other questions? I guess the motion does not have to include that we're going to try to do a delete on the salt shed.
No, that'll all be dealt with later. 'Cause
Okay.
that'll actually come back to the board for approval, any
So
change
it's
orders.
at least the intent of the board that would be followed through.
Right, correct.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll do change order credit for
okay,
that when we get all the contract documents.
okay.
And that's how we'll do it. So it'll be done at sort of one time.
Yeah, because change orders need to be approved by the board.
So it hopefully won't be one of these where it costs a lot more to add it, but it doesn't take much out of it. A lot of change orders do work that way, but at any rate, Oh.
And the other thing I just want to make note that the contractors were telling me that this thing, they got to know right away, and they're going to be pulling in job trailers right away.
Okay.
Seriously, with, for supplies and stuff, because they've already ordered the supplies, to try and hedge their, so they're gonna bring in these trailers, and they're gonna start, with material, they're gonna bring them in right away, so.
So we'll need
And
to-
I'm gonna just tell you this right now, so they're saying, we gotta get paid for this stuff, this material, I mean, it's so, crazy, so, they're gonna be asking for a payment.
All right.
Our next
We're gonna
meeting's
have
not till
it when it wants
September, and we'll have
Let's-
our funds by
let's-
then.
let's vote on our motion.
Yeah.
Let's vote on our motion before we get into other areas of discussion. So we have the motion, it's been appropriately seconded. Everybody understand the emotion, so I don't have to repeat it?
I mean, I can repeat it, and
Please
I'm
don't.
willing to do so.
I think we're good.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mike. Thanks, Mike.
If no other discussion, I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative, the motion is approved. Now, I think the one thing we want to make sure is Mike is involved in where anybody starts parking trailers and things like that, so they're not impeding anything you're doing or in the way of anything.
The building, how long is it going to they actually get the building? Because we
We,
wouldn't be bringing that one.
we will have a pre-construction meeting with PCI, and we will discuss these things. I'm sure that we are all in agreement.
Yeah.
What needs to be
Will Todd be a part of that meeting, or,
Oh, I would imagine
and
so.
Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I've
good.
been trying to get rid of some fill. Put some fill.
Right, good.
So my question to you guys is, am I allowed to let PCI know this evening, or,
Yeah, I mean, the motion's been made,
Yeah,
it's a
order's
public
made.
meeting.
so I can let them know tonight, and I can let.
I just hope they're the company that bought the steel, because that's gonna be really unfortunate if they're not.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've only gone this far, not having done that, because that would put them at great risk.
Yeah, I think, that this is a public meeting. The board's taken all the formal action, so you can contact all of
I mean,
This evening.
yeah,
Yeah, 'cause-
and you can let them know to.
Tony could go away and call him, because it's a public meeting, so.
Yeah.
But, they've been like, can you tell us tonight?
Yes, yes.
I'll thank Little Bar for their bid, but, we were not the low bidder.
Yeah, we should thank them as,
Approved bidder.
yeah, thank them as well, and of course,
They're still gonna
they
be.
still have over a 10% piece of it in the electrical.
Yes.
Yep.
Separate.
Is waiting for the loan approval, whatever, interfere with anything that they get started with?
No, because like Steve said, they call it a loan approval. Are you talking about like with DCED?
But it's basically.
Yeah. It's just, they're just verifying that we're not exceeding our,
Gotcha.
debt
Allowed.
limit. So, and I think it's 250% of your annual revenue.
Yeah, it's 250%, but then if it's over 100,000 or something, or 30%, it has to have that
It goes on a ballot or whatever,
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
I gave
Referendum.
it to Jeff here, he can read it, yes, it's in there.
And it's not gonna do that.
Were you asking that, or
250%
were you
of
asking when we have the leveling
3 million
time
is a
to
lot of
start
money.
paying for the materials?
Right,
That's what you were asking.
right, I was
right?
asking about timing.
Yeah,
This evening.
Jeff's question,
Email it to me.
With the correct
I'll
addition.
email it before.
Jeff's question was more timing, and that, well, we're not gonna have the loan money until the 2nd of September. Will any of these contractors want money for anything before then?
It's gonna be really difficult.
Well, the thing is,
No, we have our own-
unless we have the contracts in place and they submit a request for payment before next Wednesday, they're unfortunately gonna have to wait till the September 2nd meeting for any money. Unless the board were to hold a special meeting. With that said,
Well, we
we're
wouldn't-
scheduled for settlement on September 2nd, but we do have our cash reserve.
And we're gonna put some of that in, so if we had to,
Yeah, I mean, we could pay some of that up front until the loan proceeds came in.
I mean, I think we wouldn't be totally insensitive, we'd have to hear the need, if there was a need. Board doesn't, yeah, we do have to do that in public, we can't do that by phone.
Well, these contractors, they've placed their orders then, right? And then
They've already ordered,
They've
They
already
ordered.
ordered.
they've already ordered,
terms? Do they have,
Wow.
do they have terms for payment?
usually, it's a 30-day. But like I said, I'm gonna repeat myself, they already ordered the material, they're gonna bring out the trailers for the material, and they tell me they wanna be paid for it.
Now, does the contract allow for progress payments? That's basically what this would be.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I just wanna be clear, they're looking for payment right away on the material that they have to get in.
Well, they need to get their contract signed.
Yeah.
Certainly not gonna release anything before
Right,
then.
no, right.
And, they need to get their request for payment in and you need to verify and whatever, so.
Yeah, I gotta verify the material that's sitting in
Yeah.
the trailers.
But they also, I mean, they also have got to be aware and understand how municipalities work.
Oh, they are, they do.
I mean, our meetings are the first Wednesday of the month, so that's typically what, and the board would have to approve,
I think that's the same for Spring Garden County.
you know.
the first one.
We would have to approve dollars of that large. When we approve a treasurer's report, we're approving all the small dollar things. We don't do like some municipalities and they vote on every $10 check.
Yeah.
You know, we've given, basically we have a board member and Todd, so there have to be duplicate signatures. So the board is aware of any check. And then they're all detailed in the treasurer's report. When we approve the treasurer's report, we're approving payment of those bills, even some of them have already been paid.
Right,
But then when they rise to a certain level, they have to come to the board for approval.
yeah. And those three contractors I said on Spring Garden, they're here too, so they know the process.
Right.
They're aware of, you know, how it works.
So they might be want to be aware of our deadlines. And typically, you like to have it, how long before it's due before
At least that Friday morning before the board meeting. So because we deliver board packets the Friday before the meeting.
Yeah,
So in order for me to get it on the agenda, and there was some recent legislation changes with the sunshine law about, you can't throw these things on the agendas.
without
we have
approval of the
sometime.
board.
Yeah,
Board has to vote to approve.
so
everything.
that's the
but it
30th.
just gives you the opportunity to review everything, so,
Yeah, it's almost like identical to Spring Garden too.
yeah.
Because I've got to tell the contractors, please submit your pencil application for me to review, make sure I agree. And then I said, yes, I agree. Please have your pay application notarized and send it to me. And Brian Bittenhafer will certify that pay application. Then I make recommendation to Zig, hey, this is in this amount, to this prime contractor, we recommend payment for this X dollar. So it's the same thing.
So
You gotta
just-
have it prior to the.
Right, so just if they're aware, if they know when our board meeting is and that, you know, by the Friday before that, we would need everything, which a lot of it's going to depend on you getting that
Oh, yeah,
information.
yeah, yeah.
And that's,
These are the things that would be discussed at the pre-construction.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that everybody knows.
And the pre-construction meeting would be held when, roughly?
Whenever we, guess when we think it's the best.
Before they start submitting
Yeah.
bills, right? That's what I was getting at. Or after, that's okay, then we can't pay, right?
So I guess then I will work on the contracts, getting the contracts put together. That I can send to you guys.
Obviously, we're going to expect the contractors to do a good job and to hold up there. And by the same token, we need to do our job and pay in time. So it certainly will be our intent that they will get paid on a timely basis, for sure.
I think, like on Spring Garden, we asked the contractors to retain 10% on retainage for the whole item, you know, whole schedule of items. And I know a couple of them asked if we could reduce the retainage down to 5% towards the end of the project, and we said no. That whole 10%. So that's a good chunk of money.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money.
But that's your leverage to make sure all the little things are done in the end. And we know that as a municipality too.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments regarding that? Well, we didn't have a period of public comment before because we had no public here, but you're our public, Tony. Anything you want to say tonight? Okay. You may have learned more about buildings than you ever wanted to know, because I know you were thinking through all this at one time too. But, all right, that is the only item of business that we were allowed tonight. So we have a motion to adjourn. In a second, we all okay to adjourn?
Yep.
We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming for a special meeting. Kevin,